Let's cover the next scene. We're gonna work in this office park forest scene where basically we're in the middle of this office park, but we have a few trees in there. We shot it by controlling our angles to kind of look like a forest. So there's a couple things that we do want to nix in Photoshop, or you can use the spot removal tool, but let's not worry about that. It's really simple to do that, and I'm sure you guys all know how to do that. What I want to do is look at the raw file. So this is the raw file from this scene, and we were using that LED string light over the camera, if you guys remember. And whenever you do that, it's going to have this kind of wonky effect on the temperature and just kind of color on the image. And that's because those LED light strings, they're not necessarily like a true, very rich tungsten. They kind of have some green hues to them. They're kind of a cheaper light, if that makes sense, but we can still get a great effect out of them. So what I'm gonna do right now is let's go ahead and just fix our crop so that we have trees that actually go straight up and down so it doesn't look like they've been blown over by the wind. I'm gonna press R to do that. I'm gonna press W just so that you can see where the white balance should be. So let's go ahead and click on the dress and just get an approximate white balance. And this is actually pretty good. And usually for this kind of a pastel look, we want that more neutral vibe to an image. All we're going to do at this point is use any of the color film or the soft pastel color preset. I kind of prefer color film for this scene, but you can see that soft pastel still works very, very well for this. And once we have that dialed in, I'm just going to adjust my exposure and I'm going to adjust the contrast just to kind of get me to a nice little spot. And looks like right around here is where it looks great. Now, if I compare this to the before and the after of this version of the, of the image, let's go ahead and do that right now, actually. I'm gonna create a virtual copy by pressing Control apostrophe or Command apostrophe. Let's reset this one out. Control Shift R, Command Shift R. I am gonna just select that crop. So let's just, so we have the same crop, let's paste that right over this image. Let's press N with them both selected so you can see. So this is just with that pastel color over it. It has a really beautiful kind of soft, clean look to it. Kind of a more modern feel to that kind of pastel film look. The other looks I love for this is a Fuji 400 or a Kodak Portra 800 look. So the Fuji 400 has a little bit more muted greens, which is really nice. I would take that contrast up quite a bit. And this kind of has that snow white almost kind of look to the color. And you might want to decide to add a little bit more like magentas and kind of warm it up a little bit to taste wherever you like it. So I think right about here it looks pretty good. Okay, you'll notice which one is Kodak versus the Fuji, because the Kodak Portra has a little bit more warmth in the, especially like over the skin tones, and I kind of like that look a lot. So I'm going to do that, and then all I'm going to do is just adjust the shadows and adjust the contrast just a little bit to kind of get that look back. So that's really all we're going to do for this set of images. Now, if you want to, you can exaggerate the highlights just a little bit by grabbing that the adjustment brush and going down into our, remember that little sun flare in the special effects? We can actually grab that sun flare that we created with the LED light and we can kind of enhance it by just clicking anywhere where it's coming from and kind of create the look of a sun flare coming through the frame. Because the LED light was there in the first place, because we had it in the scene to begin with, the final effect is actually very convincing. Like it actually looks like that's the way it was. So this is how this entire scene is basically processed, and you'll see that we take it kind of from this dingy, overly yellow look to kind of this nice, clean pastel look. And all we would do from there is just nix certain items like this inside of Photoshop, like that little sprinkler head. You can either take that in Photoshop if you want to. It's something easy enough that you could do inside of Lightroom just with the spot removal tool. You drag it down, but you do get better effect, you know, taking this kind of thing into Photoshop. But either way, it's a quick and simple adjustment. That's it for kind of that clean pastel look. Let's go ahead and move on to the next tutorial.